This is a reading from Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17. Iron sharpens iron, and one person sharpens the wits of another. The people we surround ourselves with matter so much in like every part of our life, everything we're trying to improve and grow in, or the people we're trying to become. You've heard it so many times, like you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Like, that's crazy. Like, these people, your friends, your close-knit circle matters so much. So from a Christian specific point of view, I'm going to be talking about why, kind of for like 4 reasons, for rooting out vice, for belief, for experiencing God's love, and lastly, for joy. So firstly, for rooting out vice, again, like it's kind of obvious, you've heard it, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. But there's sort of like a nefarious twist of this, kind of like a spiritual or psychological truth that like emphasizes this, like, oh shoot, like you really got to get your friend circle sorted out. Hopefully they're some solid people who are pushing you and inspiring you to do good. So this is from, I heard Jordan Peterson talk about this a while ago when I was really into psychology. There were these studies done in, it was either high schools or middle schools, where they took like this bad kid, this delinquent character, and they wanted to lift him up. They wanted to help him with his grades, becoming a better person, whatever. So the idea was putting this, bad character at the good lunch table, or like with, good kids, these smarter, non-delinquent characters. And again, this is kind of based off this idea you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So in putting, this character, this kind of bad guy with good people at that lunch table, they thought we're going to lift him up. But what happened was actually the opposite, wherein instead of putting this bad apple with some good people, the bad apple is lifted up. Instead, what they found that the people who were kind of on this straight and narrow, or this right path, were brought down. Again, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Like, your friends make up or help define your character. That is true, but it's easier to go down than to go up. In so many ways, in our fitness, in health, in vice, but especially in the spiritual life, walking with Christ, it is especially like at the start, improving in so many different areas can be like a slide where going down is easy, right? And if you are hanging around with people who pull you down, it's so much easier to slide into vice, and often we have to climb into virtue. The Imitation of Christ, a book I love, says, unless you do violence to yourself, you will not overcome vice. Well, that's not talking about like self-flagellation, self-harm, stuff like that. It is sort of emphasizing the struggle to root out vice. And if the people that we are surrounding ourselves with are, pulling us down, they're kind of at the bottom of that slide, like beckoning us, it's so much easier to go down than it is to go up in so many things, but especially in walking with Christ, especially, when you're starting out, when you're trying to rid yourself of these habits, these addictions, when you're beginning, caring about your faith, stuff like that. It's so crucial to surround yourself with people who want to push you up. So again, when considering like this, quote you've heard so many times, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, know that it's not just for the positives. It's also in case there's someone negative, because it's easier to go down than it is to go up. Second point, talking about belief. Oftentimes, especially like last year, I doubt my faith a lot. And I go to a Catholic school, and I'm Catholic. And one sort of thing that comforted me greatly in terms of my faith when I would question it or doubt it is looking at the people who follow Christ on my campus and the people that don't. Even, the Protestant kids or the Catholic kids, the people who follow Christ, those people have such a different, not fully different, but heightened, joyful disposition. So kind, like so loving that it feels almost supernatural. Like having a conversation with these kids, at first it was kind of like, oh, like, do I want to be hanging around like the Christian group, whatever, stuff like that. But I later found like such reassurance in that when I'm doubting, if God is real, when I'm doubting being Catholic, being Christian, when I'm doubting, I don't know, the effect of like living a Christian life, in surrounding myself with these people, like the joy that they have, the love that they have is palpable and so much greater than that of the average student at my school who's atheist, agnostic, or doesn't really care about their faith. So much deeper, so much more, not real, but just greater love, just so kind and so loving. And this gave me such a, I don't know, a reassurance that like it is the right thing to be a Christian. That like this does make you more loving, this does make you a better person, because it's like the right walk to have, and they're infused, or more so recognizing like the divine light of Christ within them. And that is so, it continues to be so powerful to me when I have questions about my faith, when I'm like, is this the right thing? Experiencing the people who are also walking or trying their best to walk with Christ in their lives, experiencing those people and realizing how kind they are and generous they are and how much joy they bring you removes so many doubts for me. That's part 2. Part 3 is experiencing God's love, which is kind of building off the second point. Here I'll be talking also mainly more about my girlfriend, which again is like someone I spend a lot of my time with, which matters a lot. So she kind of always made this point that she's like, oh, you know, I better understand God's love with you. And that always was kind of like nice to me to hear. I was like, oh, like that sounds good to me, honey. Like that was cute, that was nice. And I never really got it, or like, oh, like you help me understand Christ's love, whatever. Like that's nice. Until I sort of found myself struggling to experience God's love, which is kind of more, this is more like spiritual, kind of more like a feeling than a thought or a sentence. But, you know, I went through a period of really like vividly, it's like spiritual consolation, like experiencing God's love, having this like warm feeling inside of me, going to mass, when praying. And then I remember one day in particular, like it wasn't there as much, and I was like, like really wish I had that feeling. Like I can't seem to grasp it, whatever it may be. It was, I forget exactly why, but I kind of remembered what she was saying, and I thought about that a bit, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so powerful. Because in having, you know, this loving girlfriend, or in having these friends who are loving and having good friends by your side, that love, like God is love. It literally says that in the Bible, in the first letter of John, God is love, God is charity. But the love that we experience from others, like my girlfriend loving me, or me loving my girlfriend, when we are unable to imagine, unable to feel, unable to connect with God's love in a certain day, from that supernatural level, all we need to do is take the love that we have experienced from others and apply that like to the nth degree. Like we cannot fathom what it means to be just love. God is love. Like what exactly does that mean? Like, I don't know, something about the Trinity, God always, the Trinity being constantly in a state of love. Everything God does is out of love because God is love. It's quite confusing. And again, we can't always fully grasp or feel or be consoled by the love of God. And that's why it's so important to have loving, kind friends, girlfriend, family, loving relationships. It's so helpful. Like, because it's, in a sense, like easier to receive. Like when your girlfriend kisses you, when your grandmother hugs you after a while, and you feel that love and you feel that connection, like that is part, I don't know if part's the right word, but that is God, that love. And it's a physical manifestation through another human being of that love that we can always reflect on. I don't want to say it's more easier to understand, I don't know if that's the right word, but we can always return to it and go back to it. That love that we feel for others and others feel for us, God's so much greater than that. And just saying that right now brings me so much joy and so much peace. And I don't know, I really like, I don't know why people don't talk about that more. Like, come on, like the love your girlfriend has for you, you can imagine that, her like kissing you, hugging you. Like, God's so much greater than that. God's love for us is so much greater than that. And we can like imagine or kind of more easier to conjure the love that, our girlfriend has for us when we're struggling with desolation, when we don't feel God's love. Um, you can hug someone you really love and better experience, or better know, better remember, a grace remembered is a grace renewed of God's love. And last point, kind of building off of this, is the joy of having friends. There's a quote from G.K. Chesterton which says, "Angels can fly because they take themselves lightly." And it doesn't say this in the quote, but then the comparison is like the devil falls because of his pride, because of his inability to take things lightly. The devil falls. Angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. Again, kind of like metaphor here, or quote, but cool quote. Having friends, not even necessarily Christian friends here. I would, obviously that still is kind of the point of this video, but friends to surround yourself with in general. People that bring you joy is so, so important. More recently, kind of, I realized, especially over the summer, I was working this job. The shift was like 7:30 to 3:30. Then I would go home, I would lift, I would eat, I would go train jiu-jitsu, and then I would come home, talk with my family for like 20 minutes and go to bed. And having this sort of like lack of socialization, lack of friends, left me feeling like less joyful. I was less kind and I was less loving to others, even in my prayer to Christ. And I wasn't able to, I don't know, I was less joyful. And well, that is true that there are, these desert monks, these desert wanderers, these people, these monks who live, kind of in isolation without a lot of socialization. There still is some element of community, and not all, I'm sure, like religious, but I visited a monastery once, a Benedictine monastery, and they're talking about the monks, the guys always get dinner together. They always eat their meals together and sharing in community. Again, there are some extremes, some desert wanderers, but even a lot of these religious, cloistered communities that are rarely take visitors, are kind of closed off to the outside world. In these cloisters, there still is a community within that. There still is fellowship, brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever word you want to use. And one reason that is so important is for the joy it can give us. Just like shooting the breeze with your friends. I don't know, it can fill us with joy and fulfillment. And especially, again, in my life, going without that for a bit, for a myriad or many different reasons, working too much, gym, jiu-jitsu every day, stuff like that. When you finally sit down with a good friend after a while and you're just laughing uncontrollably, it brings you joy. Especially, a Christian friend, a friend who's also following Christ. Brings you joy, which is so helpful to have and makes life brighter. So those are the 4 points why it's important to have good friends, have good people that you surround yourself with. First point, rooting out vice. Remember the kind of slide of spiritual dynamics here, where it's often easier to go down than it is to go up. So we really got to make sure we're surrounding ourselves with people who are helping us up the ladder, not pushing us down the slide, because it requires more effort to climb a ladder than go down a slide. Point 2 is belief, seeing the love these people have, so palpable, so tangible compared to, I guess, your average person who's atheist, agnostic. Point 3, experiencing God's love, or being able to remember that or understand it in the love we have for others and the love others have for us. That's a little more tangible, that we can always kind of look back on and reflect as a degree, a small magnitude of the wonderful, joyous love that God always has for us. And point 4, joy, shooting the breeze, laughing with people. It just, I don't know, I'm smiling just thinking about it now. And yeah, especially too, there's been some periods recently where I've been a little more disconnected from people, from having emotional conversations, from just laughing for no good reason. It just brings you joy. It really matters to have good friends, good people, loving family, girlfriend, boyfriend, wherever your situation may be. It matters. It matters to have people walking the right path with you. How to find them? How to find a loving girlfriend, how to find loving friends, is you become more like the person you want around you. If you want a girlfriend who is trustworthy, honest, physically fit, stuff like that, you become that. If you want a friend who's hilarious, who's social, who's bold, if you want something like that, you become more like that, and then you attract what you are. That's just kind of like a little tip there for having these better friends, girlfriend, romantic partner, whatever in our life. In improving, we are able to we attract kind of what we are. And sort of a like darker part of that is, and this is kind of talked about a lot in self-improvement, secular culture. There's like this clip I've seen on YouTube a lot of Chris Williamson, this podcast guy from Modern Wisdom, talking about this, kind of like a lonely chapter, where when you're becoming something better or you're trying to improve, there's a sense of kind of like a lonely period where you're here, but you're trying to get here, but you're not here. And in that period, like, you're still friends with the people kind of like down here, like at this level, but you're striving and you're becoming better, but you're not yet you haven't like actually actualized that. You're still falling so hard that you're not, I don't know if ready is the right word. I'm kind of miswording this. You're not like, you haven't improved enough to like, unlock isn't the right word, but I'm gonna try wording this one more time. Lonely chapter by Chris Williamson. You're at this point, you're trying to get to this point, you still have these friends, but they're not the friends that are pulling you up there, but you're not kind of ready or improved enough to attract and to have these friends that are up here. And in that middle, there is sort of like, or there can be for a lot of people, a lonely period where you don't fit in with your old friends, but you also don't fit in with these new people. You're just trying to get there. You're trying to like develop more and become this better person. And there can be, and I've experienced this kind of a little period of like isolation where you don't fit in with these people because you're trying to become new, but you're also not ready, or you may feel like awkward around these, Christian people, these better people that you don't fit in. So there is kind of that lonely period, but it's not forever. Trust me. I was there and I got past it, and thanks be to God, because the friends I have now, my girlfriend, my community of Catholic Christian friends, I'm so grateful for, and it helps me so much on my walk with Christ, for people to talk with, for people to bring me joy, for people to help me understand God's love, to help my belief, and to help me rid myself of vice. Friends matter. God bless.